Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Modern Market. We are a couple minutes late because my MacBook decided to spontaneously crash before the show, but now we are ready to go. So apologies for the delay. Ready to get into the show to discuss everything to do with the modern market, that is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to make some, or in an ideal case, a lot of money on the internet. Loaded up for discussion today, we have obviously headline number one has to be Pump Fund and their alleged raise of $1 billion at a $4 billion valuation through a token sale. Second headline, Elon being quite articulate about the big, beautiful bill and calling it a disgusting abomination. And as the last piece of news, Brett will go into that. The Claynosaurz mint was pretty successful with 97,000 Popkin packs being minted and a total selling volume of almost $20 million worth of packs. We've also got the latest on price action on crypto NFTs as usual, and a discussion of where we think that attention is flowing. So definitely stay tuned to that. Today I have Brett with me in the co-host seat, and we are almost ready to go in to get into it. But before we do that, as usual, just to remind the friends that nothing that we say here is financial advice. This market is extremely risky. We do not know anything for sure, so please do proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Brett, it's Wednesday, the 4th of June. How are you doing?
Good morning. That's my Norwegian good morning for everyone. Going back to my heritage of like 2 years. Things are good. You know, got a little haircut the other day, so I'm feeling a little fly. A little morning bedhead, but that's okay. Yeah, man, it's a lot of fun.
You changed more than just your haircut. You have TFP. You have your one.
You noticed?
Yes, I did. You have your one-of-one bad buns. We talked about the collection on the show. What's the thinking here? What's the story behind the PFP change?
Yeah, that was a sacred cow situation for me. It's like, man, I don't want to touch my personal branding and change my little bread person. But you know, like I'm like a steward of our ecosystem, right? The MegaETH ecosystem. We're trying to grow it. I'm trying to make sure builders and participants in the ecosystem see that we acknowledge them. Things are fun, whatever. The team went out of the way and made a one-of-one for me. They actually, they're the ones that sent this to me. So it's almost like just treating it like an honorary. So they sent it to me and I was like, you know what? Like there's a team that I think is doing a lot of stuff right early on. Like we had a little bit of excitement. I told you I had a little bit of FOMO on them. I haven't purchased more. I minted one. And I just want to like, I'm not going to shill NFTs, but I taking a look at like a page out of like a Tolly's book where you see he's constantly rotating through PFPs on the Solana blockchain, even some rugs, like just explicit rugs. And you're like, you know, as long as you're not shilling the shit and you just like partaking in the culture, I think it's a fine thing to do, and it acknowledges and builds up kind of the people that are spending time there. So I want to make sure I emulate that. And yeah, so I got my bread bun rocking for a little bit. There's a few more that are coming that I anticipate that I will rock at some point. And then yeah, probably back to my bread PFP at some point, or just like make it part of the rotation. I want to have fun with it.
Gotcha. So the original bread is not lost. Will come back between rotations.
I have too many memes. I have too many memes to get rid of that picture. So, you know, I'm building up the repertoire. I have many more that you guys haven't seen yet that I have taken from actual memes and had ChatGPT convert them into my specific bread person. Yeah, I can't abandon that now.
English in the comments is saying that bread is ready to be on the official Web3 calendar this year.
Yeah, I'd do it.
I love where this is going. But we also have a lot to get into. So let's get into the show, especially since we're a couple minutes late, starting as usual with the price action. Just let me get that up on screen first. There we go. Things are pretty flat, I would say, over the last 24 hours. BTC is almost back at 106K. ETH is up 1%, 2.6K. XRP had a bit of a move up 2% at $2.25. BNB is essentially flat at $670. Solana, that's an interesting one, is not moving in line with the other majors. Solana is down 3% at $156. I wonder if that little sell-off is to do especially given that it's down 10% over the last 7 days with the pump fund news, which we'll get into in a bit. Brett, you want to come in?
Yeah, I was just like, oh, Hyperliquid looks great. It's like I mentioned I mentioned on Monday that I started fucking around with perps and I had that perp position open for a little bit. I hadn't checked on it and I was like, funding's okay. Like, I'm paying a little bit there, but I think as long as this stuff goes lateral, I'm good. I lost my ass on it. I mean, it's a small position, but it's just like I didn't realize how quickly that shit can run away on you. I went from like, a couple $100 here then to like I'm down 5K. Like, okay, should probably reel that in. So I just closed it out, right? And I'm like, okay. I need to recalibrate. If I'm going to be doing this shit and not have just spot positions, I need to like be actively trading this stuff. So I'm going to try to be a little more mindful going forward. That was a fun experiment. Kaito did not move in the direction that I had anticipated. And now I'm watching it for other reasons.
Yeah, Kaito did go down to, what is it, $1.70 or so, I think?
170 now. I got in like 210, 215, something like that. So like it went south on me pretty quick. I was green for like 2 days and then
Yeah, it's pretty brutal if you trade with high amount of leverage to see how just little movement can impact
5x, but like,
oh, you only did
man,
5x? Oh, okay.
that was only 5x. Yeah. And like, I'm having some perp platforms talk to me for MegaETH and like, they're from other chains. So they're live now. And I'm playing on, I'm looking at them, see what's going on. Bro, these people are ridiculous. Some of this stuff's like 200x leverage on like on some of these tokens. Like, what the fuck are you guys doing over here? This is ridiculous. But people love it.
I always thought that, as much as I love Hyperliquid, but that the default thing historically has been the 20x leverage says a lot about the, degeneracy in our space.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, consider it an educational cost and a tip to the HLP vault. You're welcome, guys. Thank you for taking those out of that position and fucking me.
Talking about Hyperliquid though, Hyperliquid is up 1%.
Up another percent. Look at that.
Yep.
Nice. Those are all spot bags for me. So
beautiful. At $37. Sui, however, down 1% at $3.20. Also taking a look at the meme side of things to see what's happening there. Just scrolling over, seems to be pretty flat. Doge unchanged at 19.5 cents.
So that's red, bro. Look at that. Red.
Yeah,
even Trump on the fucking wallet news. And no one's excited for a wallet these days.
If 0.07 for Doge, what is Trump? Trump is down 0.8%. There was a lot of back and forth though on the wallet stuff, whether that's official or that's not official.
Yeah, my interpretation is that there's just two entities that are dangling carrots in the Trump ecosystem. There's like the WorldFi team, and then there's like the Trump meme team, and like they just don't talk, which is not surprising.
It seems they're not communicating. That has become evident.
Yeah.
Bonk is down 4.5%. SPX, that is the exception here, up 7.7%. Fartcoin
on the back of Murad dominating TikTok. Like that's been the whole like I don't know how successful it is.
Completely.
Yeah, he's on a TikTok arc. He's like been posting videos on there for a couple of weeks, months now. Just like super, I don't know, brain rotty shit of just like, oh, you're gonna ruin your life. You never should have went to college. You should join the meme cult. And then like it's honestly the chart looks pretty good over the last like few months for SPX specifically. And that's just all he's been shilling.
Makes sense. Also up 18% over the week. In terms of some of the other memes, Fartcoin down 7%. Dog we've had down 2%. Ape is up 10%. Mog is down 2%. Yeah, everything else seems to be red or basically flat over the last 24 hours. Moving on into the headlines of the day, we said at the top of the show, Pump.fund reportedly seeking to raise $1 billion at a $4 billion valuation through a token sale caused a lot of discussion on the timeline, which we'll get into in a bit. Elon calling the spending bill a disgusting abomination. I'm going to go into that a bit later in the show, discuss what the bill is about and see what led to this reaction. And then, Brett, you'll cover the Claynosaurz mint for us, which managed to sell 97,000 Popkin packs. In terms of some other notable price action, Kita, we continue the hate watching on that. At least I do, Brett. I don't know if you got in. up
Yeah,
another
no.
8%.
Jesus Christ.
$1.14. I actually looked it up in my chat with a friend who was talking about it early. You got in at 40 mil, so I'm now officially a 30x that I missed
I
on
would
that.
say what's 19 or no, what's the current market cap of it? The $1.14. What does it represent?
Let me
Is it like a
look.
clean number where that's like 1.4, 1.1 bill or something, or 114 million, or
Yeah,
is
market
it
cap is like 500-ish, and that's the FTV. FTV is at 1.14.
okay? Okay.
Then Hype, the main token launch bit, liquid launch, which we talked about yesterday, that reached all-time high. That is up another 37%, sitting at 60 mil.
Did they do any airdrops or anything, or did you have to buy in on that?
You had to buy in. I don't think that they did an airdrop. I bought myself a bag. Bcheck has a bag, and they announced the staking feature, which we also had talked about on the show last week,
Yeah.
this week, with a
Mm.
pretty cool distinction that the fees that you earn on there, you don't earn them in liquid launch, you actually earn them in Hype. So that's nice
Oh,
because
nice.
you don't cause the sell pressure on the token itself. But I think that obviously benefited from this pump fun news as well.
Of course. Of course. I was just wondering for more of like a active versus passive thing. It's like, okay, could I have positioned myself in the ecosystem to where I get a piece of that? Sounds like not. I had to, it's like active awareness and like knowing the context of the situation and when to launch. And like, I don't have time for that. I frankly barely have enough time to tweet these days, let alone explore ecosystems. So bummer.
Yeah, I feel you on that. At least I'm happy that I did not miss that as opposed to Kita. So at least one thing to look at and be happy about. Fartcoin, we mentioned that already, down another 5%, down 21% on the week. Moving on to the NFT side of things, we had a couple notable sales. CryptoPunk with a bandana sold for 51 ETH.
Easy
That
sold his.
was
Did you see that?
easy. Yeah, that was Easy's sale that got picked up by Punk's OTC, bought instantly and sold for a couple ETH profit within the next 30 minutes. That was quite interesting to see. Easy also was posting about the fact that he wants to basically take that unproductive capital out and put it back into the Hype ecosystem. And then the other notable thing, REKT drinks selling out the latest flavor in 17 minutes on OpenSea globally. I think there was one tranche for Europe, another one for the US.
How's their
Looking,
token doing? Like, because they're trying to
s-
build a business, right?
yep.
Like, and they're driving flows.
Let's take a
Looks
look.
good. Looks good over the last month. Just grinding up. It was hovering at 18 mil for a
100,
long time. Now up to 106. Nice. Nearly all time high.
120%, up 120% over the last month. Yep. At 60
Love to see it.
mil market cap, 110 mil FTV. Doing pretty well, yeah.
I would love to know what like in the revenue age. Like there was a tweet yesterday from Andy from the roll up where he's like, he asked people how long do you think this revenue meta is gonna last for for these protocols and tokens? And everyone dunked on him. Like, bro, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? Like, it's how long is the are you making money in, as a business meta gonna last? And like everyone's like, dude, you're dumb. Like forever. That's a forever thing for this industry. So like I would love to see specifically for these guys, like, okay, they're trying to generate revenue and they are trying to drive like structural ownership. I remember like that being a unique value prop early on. They wanted to do that, right? They went through a lot of headaches to do that. I'd like to see the numbers.
Yeah, we also had OSF on one of the shows for Dial In where he was talking about REKT and also talking about the fact that they want to at some point extend beyond drinks. So, and obviously also talking about the token buybacks, which
Yeah.
is an interesting flywheel. Definitely curious to follow up with the story, despite having unfortunately passed to invest in REKT. But I do have a bag of REKT tokens at least. Taking a quick.
What was that pre-sale at? It was like I remember seeing it was like 30 mil.
I don't remember, to be honest. I think something around that range, but I would be guessing.
Yeah. Okay.
Taking a quick look at the NFT majors as well. Everything is a bit red as well. Bored Apes are down 1.5%, 13.2 ETH floor. Pudgies down 3.5%, 9.2 ETH floor. Moonbirds, obviously after the run up, there had to be a bit of a correction. They're down 15% on the day, 0.75 ETH floor, but still up 150% over the week. Azukis up 2%, 2.17 ETH floor. And CryptoPunks also had a bit of a move up. Going back to the Web3 Roundup to get you the news from the rest of the space, we have Trump's Truth Social filing for a BTC ETF, followed by another Trump news, which you already touched on, Brett. The Trump family denying any involvement in Magic Eden's Trump wallet. Tether announcing a strategic investment in Orion X, one of the leading Chilean digital asset exchanges. I think that's pretty interesting to see how Tether is expanding and extending across so many different industries. The North American energy company SolarBank announcing a BTC treasury strategy as well. Seems like that strategy, BTC treasury hype strategy, is not stopping anytime soon. In terms of some other news, Solana signing a memorandum of understanding with Dubai's Virtual Assets Authority. Consensus acquiring Web3 auth to fix pain points with self-custody. Classover, being a provider of live and interactive online learning, announced that it has agreed to issue $500 million in senior secured convertible notes to further their Sol treasury strategy. And then from the social crypto side, Kaito launching another leaderboard, the Injective leaderboard, with 6,000 Injective up for grabs. Then the $5,000 Kaito Yapper payouts have accrued to 30K so far. They will be going to the top 50 Yappers and emerging Yappers each week. I think that Kaito also shared a spreadsheet where everyone can look up if they're either part of the top 50 or the top 50 emerging Yappers. And then also Kaito announcing that it's going to go live on Instagram and TikTok. Right? Anything from the Web3 Roundup that you want to touch on?
Oh man, all that is kind of going to emerging yappers. That sucks. As a professional yapper myself,
there's an allocation for the top 50 and for the top 50 of the emerging yapper section.
Okay, good. And those aren't going out just yet.
And basically, your name is, I think, in every single week you are in the top 50.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was hoping. Like, I'm doing pretty good on the Yap front. I haven't seen myself for lately, but I actually just piqued my interest. I went and looked at that Pendle pool. Guess what the APY is up to?
I think it probably down a bit, 50, 60?
116%.
What? No.
Yeah, I just tweeted it. It's 106. Like someone pulled some liquidity, so it was at 9.8 mil and 80% APY. It is now down to 8.4 or 14 mil and 116% APY. So it just keeps going up. People are going crazy on it. Like some of it has to do with probably the price action. People like trying to adjust for that, and maybe because they remove so much liquidity, they are not liquidity, but so much PT from it that now it's really heavy YT. All the degens are piling in there. So people that were holding on to the underlying asset, which has crashed, probably, got their shit out. And now it's me and a few other people as really overweight yield side, and I'm eating for it. So this was always the play. It's just like, let the market do its thing. Let people get heavy on the yield, which also might actually still be the move. After talking to Oxy and the crowd a few times, like if we can time that stuff with YT, like you may be able to just like spike in for like a week, hit a snapshot, and come away with like your entire funding for the other side of it, or like the equivalent of what your capital would have been, your principal. I haven't really like dove into like trying to attempt it, but it's very likely that you could do that. I just don't know that I have the attention span or the like free time, frankly, to time it well.
I think the only thing that you then need to be mindful of is, what is it, 7 days to then unlock your stake on Kaito and then go back into Pendle?
Well, I mean, you could swap the assets directly, right? Like I could just go and straight up buy YT, and then I could just sell the YT and straight up buy PT. So like I can do all that stuff without having to worry about the staking, unstaking, right?
Yeah, fair enough. That's true again.
But yes, then you have to deal with staking and all the other stuff.
Yeah, is it something that you're gonna look into doing and trying to time some of that, or are you happy to sit on the APY
Like I
that
said,
you get.
Oxy's my Sherpa right now. So like he was looking at doing some of the stuff for the Laudio thing because there is a revenue share with Laudio that is going to go to Kaito stakers, and he ran some numbers. We covered it last week. So he's fixated. My man has been yield trading since the LST days. So I'm happy to piggyback on all of his work and then claim victory on the backside. So I want him to kind of look into a little bit more, and he's keeping me interested enough that I think I'm probably going to try it out with a small bag just to see what it does. But like again, it requires understanding of snapshots. That's the entire thing. Because if you hold YT, it goes to zero, like literally goes to zero. So you have to understand what snapshots will.
Brett, you went to mute.
No, I'm back. Am I still here?
Yeah, you're here.
Cool. Yeah, sorry. So I'm just like, you have to know when the snapshots are coming. So like I need to be aware of which projects are snapshotting when, and then see if it's nimble enough to like I can literally just buy a bag like a couple days before, let it ride through the snapshot, and then dump the bag. Like if I can do that and that works out, then and you can repeat it, hell yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that's definitely worth the time to make the best out of both. If you can make sensible guesses about the snapshots, the good thing is you don't need to time it like on the minute, as you said. Like if you
Right.
hit that thing within a week, yes.
If I know the week, yeah,
you're good.
Which we
You're
know
good.
is like kind of happening with like Infinex is doing like rolling things. I don't know how much of the stuff goes to Kaito stakers, but like we know they are giving a portion to it. Most of these projects are like positioning towards Kaito shit. And like I think Laudio would have been like if Laudio has taken a snapshot at end of week, that 7 days that it's also doing for the other people, like the just like the leaderboard in general. If you know when that snapshot's coming, then yeah, I think you can potentially buy a shit ton of YT day or two before, ride it through the snapshot that they have to take every single week, and then dump it Sunday, Saturday, or Sunday or Monday the next day. Like the decay on the YT is pretty minimal as long as it's not at the end of maturity, and then boom, you should get a multiple on your actual airdrop allocation.
Yeah, I think it's actually I should look into that more. I mostly just staked in Kaito on the regular Kaito website with a bit of exposure on Pendle, like I would say 80% to 20%. I definitely should take the time to try to time this better and make more of that. The other thing that I wanted to touch on quickly, it also has to do with Overarch in the comments, who said, find the Tether news very interesting. Didn't Tether also invest in Latin American agriculture? That is absolutely true. They did acquire a 70% stake in Adecoagro. That was back in April. We talked about that on the show as well. Now they also invested in OrionX, clearly with the goal to bring more stable coin payments to Latin America as well. So this seems to have been one of their markets that they're focusing on, just to also build payment infrastructure. And then the other thing that Tether also did yesterday, I didn't see too much talk about that on the timeline, is that they moved a total of 70,000 Bitcoin, or 3.9 billion, to wallets linked to 21 Capital, the BTC native financial platform by Jack Mallers, to get their exposure to BTCFi as well. It's definitely interesting to see that Tether is being active in the BTCFi side of things, but B, also extending and expanding the presence across Latin America, across so many different verticals. Brett, any final thoughts on that, or shall we move into the first piece of news?
I think we should just kick it off.
Let's do it. I think this is absolutely the main news today. I feel like these rumors have been circulating for the last couple of days that Pump Fund TGE raise might come closer and closer. And then yesterday we had the report saying that Pump Fund plans a $1 billion token sale at a $4 billion valuation. There's been a couple more claims related to that, with some people saying there might be an airdrop, other people denying that there is going to be an airdrop, or how other people then also speculating on how that airdrop potentially will work. The truth here is that we simply don't know. if there's going to be an airdrop. There's not been an official confirmation of that. I think it makes sense to think that there could be an airdrop, but again, we don't have any official numbers on that yet. Just having maybe a bit of a look at some of the numbers around Pump Fun, just to get a feeling for the volume over the last 14 days. That is still very significant. It's still $1.6 billion. Total fees since March 1st, that is at 622 mil. If you look at DeFi Llama and try to look at annualized fees, that's 890 mil, and annualized revenue would be at 530 mil. In terms of total addresses on Pump Fun, that's almost up to 20 million addresses, 10.7 million tokens launched, 13,000 addresses, creating a token today with 27,000 tokens launched today. That data is not from today, but that's I think it's 1 week old or so from what I can see on the Doom dashboard, 12 days old. But definitely shows that even though that obviously the massive hype is over, there is still a lot of volume going to Pump.fun. And just to try to get a bit of a sense of that $1 billion raise at a $4 billion valuation, CoinGecko has a list of the 50 biggest crypto funding rounds, off-chain rounds, that is. Rank 1 to 25 had obviously FTX trading at the top of that, 900 mil. Some other companies in there, So Rare, the football/soccer collectibles, 680 mil, MoonPay 555, Ledger 493, Yuga Labs 450, Consensus 450 mil as well. Pix also pointed out in one post that there's only been two bigger raises than Pump. One being EOS, for those who remember, which back then, I think it was 2017 or so, raised 4.2 billion, and Ton raised $1.7 billion. The first one is down 98% from all-time high. The second one, Pix is saying never launched. SEC made them refund that ICO initially. That's the list. Make of that what you will. There's a couple more data. There's a couple more discussion points to get into, but I'm going to stop there for a second and go to you, Brett, for your first thoughts on this race or this alleged race.
Yeah, I think it's unfair to compare to those other two because most of those were like pre-product, mostly hype. Like Ton obviously did the raise because you go, oh my God, they have the distribution of Telegram. Telegram, one of the most successful apps, but it wasn't like a funding round for Telegram, the company, right? It was a tangential thing to the thing that was successful, an add-on, right? And obviously there were some headwinds with that. The other one, EOS, like if people haven't they don't know the lore. Remember, that's just like a super hyped ICO back in fucking 2017, right? Like there were these people, some fucking ex-celebrity, I forget his name, was like shilling these people. This is a revolutionary blockchain. So people just yeeted a bunch of money. And it was kind of like the pico top of like the ICO craze. Everyone just sent a shit ton of money to it. And I know there's some opaqueness to it. So it was as pre-product, right? So it was just an idea on hype in a frothy market. Pump has been crushing. Man, Pump over the last year has generated $800 million in revenue. Like it's unequivocally one of the most successful apps in history, like across all industries, not even just like a crypto thing. Like the amount of money that they have raised on the margins that they have raised them are not raised, but generated, and over the time that they've generated, crazy successful, right? And so like they're structurally or materially just different things. So this one actually, if you look at other revenue generating businesses, like say a Hyperliquid, like it's actually less than like Hyperliquid is generating around the same amount of money, and it's valued at roughly, what is it, 18 bill right now, something like that. So like
12.
Nah, 12 bill. Okay, so like you look at that and you go, okay, like now we're talking numbers that are comparative, and you see that you go, okay, a little bit bigger. If you think app chain or app thesis versus fat protocol thesis, where things are going to actual applications, which Hyperliquid technically is because it enshrined the dominant app over there. The next question is like, okay, what the fuck does the token do? And I think that's the question no one has an answer to right now, and is the biggest indicator of what the hell is going to happen to this thing, right? Like I've seen rumors from Cyrus and other people saying, hey, like 25% of their revenue generated will be used for buybacks. Okay, if that's true, they're generating roughly a quarter of what they're roughly equivalent to Hyperliquid. They're valued at right here, roughly a quarter of what Hyperliquid is. And if they're using a quarter of their revenue to do token buybacks, like, okay, now people can start doing DCF models. Now people can start doing like all the other shit that they want to do to see like what this thing could fundamentally be valued at based on this amount of buy pressure. And then you have to ask the question is how sustainable is their business? Do you think they're going to grow? What are they going to do with the $1 billion? But it's all worth considering. And it's again, just materially different because this thing is a very successful application and you have to ask yourself what you think it's going to do.
Yeah, I think that is an excellent point. Just to paint a bit more color, because you mentioned Cyrus's post. Cyrus said, I'm sharing this on screen for the people watching us on YouTube or X video. 2 people DM'd me about the Pump ICO a week ago, but I thought it was a scam. Both told me $1 billion raise at $4 billion valuation. As you said, 25% of revenue used for buybacks, 100% unlocked day one, team investors sitting on a 12-month cliff, airdrop to users, but that wouldn't be on day one. Again, nothing is confirmed. This is Cyrus sharing from his DMs what was reported to him. I think the comparison to look at the fee side of things and then look at hype makes sense. But as you said, I think the key thing then is to see what they will do with the money that they raise on the one hand, and on the other hand, how the journey for Pump is continuing. Is it are the rumors that we've also heard around Pump Chain something that is more substantiated, or is that not the case? How will they use the tokens? So there's many questions.
Yeah.
But
So I
based,
thought about that.
yeah, go ahead.
I thought about pump chain. It depends on how you view these constructions. Pump chain in the construction of like a base or a MegaETH doesn't make sense to me, right? It's just an app on its own chain doing its own thing. That is, unless they again plan on doing something weird, crazy like Hyperliquid, right? They go, oh, we make pump chain. You launch and trade meme coins with the enshrined app, which is the launchpad, and then you tack on a minimal thing on the side. But that takes a while. And yeah, I could squint a little bit and see something like that app first and then broader generalize as a open chain. I still don't think it makes a ton of sense. But then on Solana specifically, you have constructions that are like they call them network extensions as opposed to like full or ephemeral rollups, which are basically chains that just like spin up and ultimately settle back down to Solana so that you can be composable with the rest of the ecosystem. So I could see a world where Pump Fund does the ephemeral rollup, which basically means it's faster, cheaper. You can do your own launchpad stuff. You can even go to a pump dex, and then I think like the example from Magic Block is like every 400 milliseconds you settle down to Solana so that your tokens are released to the rest of the world and all of the other ecosystems, Jupe, everything else. And Pump is just like just more performant, better UX, all these things. Prior to that, it's like I could see that kind of an implementation, not so much like a totally distinct general purpose rollup that is just like pump chain.
Yeah, I think that's a very important distinction. I would definitely agree with that line of thought. So obviously we don't have we are missing a lot of officially confirmed data, but just based on everything we've been discussing, based on the assumptions, speculations, whatever that Cyrus has been sharing based on the DMs that he received, do you think that this potentially, coming from the perspective of comparing it to Hyperliquid from a fee perspective, that this potentially has an upside to run above $4 billion, or like some other posters? I think it was FFV who said, sell if there's an airdrop, sell that immediately. Obviously not financial advice, and obviously we lag a lot of information, but it's purely speculative. Do you think that this has an upset, or is it rather capped?
Yeah, on a long-term horizon, I still think 4 bill is going to be a very appealing thing to drop for an app because like we're still on an educational journey. Like the broader market is still not totally accepting that apps are more valuable than chains, and you don't like imbue like a secondary premium on top of that, right? An L1 premium, whatever you want to call it, monetary premium, all this shit. So I think eventually it will be. if it continues down this arc where it just land grabs and continues to generate fee and usage, and like if it can maintain its position, I think it absolutely is justified, right? Because like it's fucking insane how much money they're generating, and yeah, and like that's just good. But again, it depends on how the token is utilized, right? If it's like Uniswap, just like shitty governance token, like that's obviously bearish, pretty fucking bearish, right? Everyone wants to have structural ties to the actual revenue that's generated on the platform. So like you would want to see some of that. And then again, it's just going to take time for the market to wisen up to like these applications are probably potentially more valuable than the chains themselves. And like if that is the future we're going to, then you see a re-rating on apps that have tokens associated to them. So apps generating revenue broadly across the market, I think are under indexed on for generating revenue. And I think chains are over indexed on how like the premium they get just because they're infrastructure, despite them not generating value. So I think we're still on that journey. So short term it'll be a sell, but I think long term they actually corrects higher.
Interesting. Do you think that this journey will basically progress so that apps become more valuable as chains become less valuable? As a result, that we just see an increasing number of chains and infrastructure will just become a bit more interchangeable? Or what do you think will drive this journey?
Not so much interchangeable. It was just like, you know, I've talked in the past about how I think a lot of these infrastructure plays actually may just compress lower. Like, so you'll see the lower bound come up, but you'll see some of these upper bound smart contract platforms just like, you know what, maybe these things are never going to be worth 300 billion, 500 billion, $1 trillion, because the apps are getting more sophisticated and they're capturing more and more of the economic activity that they're generating on top of it over time, right? So if you're in a world where all of the leakage, the value leakage that is traditionally gone to stakers, validators, token holders of the L1 actually is captured by holders of the pump token, right? So like before pump, like assuming, you know, pump the application had a token day one, right? You would have got all the revenue from just the trading fees on pre-bonded tokens. Now you're getting it for pre-bonded tokens plus post-bonded tokens, and then eventually it's going to start probably doing some application specific sequencing. So all of the value leakage that is generated to like Jito stakers and Solana validators, things for like priority tips, front running people, doing all that shit. If all of that again starts getting captured by pump, now let's say like for every dollar that pump generates in today's world of economic activity, and it's capturing 60% of it, just like on its own platform, and the rest of that goes to, again, Jito bundlers, the Sol token holders for validators for doing all that stuff. And eventually they get to a point where it's 90% capture, 90 cents on the dollar goes to pump and pump token holders. And the world continues as like just code is laid and people understand better techniques for doing this stuff. And, you know, different protocols are launched and this stuff gets more efficient. Like, and you think more and more and more and more of these apps are going to capture more and more and more and more of the economic activity that they actually generate without having to totally leave the ecosystem. Then it's like, okay, in that world, like maybe the underlying token, the soul of the worlds, just aren't that valuable because it's like everything is so sophisticated. It's not going to capture as much value as we thought. It's a shift from the fat protocol thesis to the fat app thesis.
Mm-hmm. Quickly sidetracking from the pump fund discussion, because I think that's super interesting. Looking at it from, you know, your perspective, building at MegaETH, what does this basically mean for you?
We're thinking about it. We also believe in the fat app thesis. That's why we're spending so much time and energy in the Mafia program to make sure that we have the best applications or the most novel applications on our platform. And then we also have like one, because it's a construction with an L2 or with a sequencer, right? So all the block building is done through a single entity. Not always going to be us, but it's going to be something that we control for at least the start. We can do things that captures more value than most other blockchains can, because we're the ones that have visibility into the mempool. And that's like transaction ordering, all that shit. So we can do like non-malicious forms of MEV, like back running, right? Like it's just like capturing all that stuff to ourselves because we're the only ones that can do it. And like eventually passing that on to whoever runs the next sequencer and then requiring them to own some of the tokens. So we have some of that going on. And then because of the unique way that we're deploying these applications, right? We have a bunch of 15-ish Mafia teams that have already come live where you just close our applications for our second round of Mafia. You know, we have a unique position early on to a lot of these projects. So, you know, take advantage of that and see if we can use our network token to get exposure to all of the things that are building on top of us, so that we actually get like a second layer exposure to what they're generating, as opposed to like direct fee capture from what they're generating on the chain.
Gotcha. Is this also then one of the reasons why you've been planning the physical events around the globe with the members in the Mega Mafia to just foster
Uh,
that relationship more?
Yeah, I mean that's just more of a general thesis on what's the best way to get people to build like novel net new apps, right? And like that is, if we spend the time and energy on these people to spend time and energy with each other, right? Like having 15 people on a Zoom call is not the same as having 15 people in a room together, jamming and building camaraderie and relationships and helping each other accelerate all that stuff. So we just think the in-person stuff is the best way to understand each other, who they are, and how we can maximize the things that they're trying to bring to market. And we just think the output of that is just materially better than just like throwing money at people through grants. And it's a little risky because you were taking bets on 15 teams as opposed to just like putting a $1 billion grant out there and saying 500 teams can apply for this and scattering it across the world, which is kind of like what Blast did. Blast was just like, hey, we have a bunch of incentives, come do shit. We still plan on doing something like that, but we want to double, triple, quadruple down on very specific teams that are very, very high agency and high quality.
Gotcha. And that kind of links back to your Fed app thesis.
Yeah.
Look, we have 10-ish minutes left in the show. I want to ask you, circling back to Pump Fun, a final question on Pump Fun, and then we'll have a couple minutes left for each of the other two news that we also want to get into. A big part of the discussion of the timeline also has been, is this extractive? Is the nature of Pump Fun extractive? Is the raise extractive? I personally said I don't think that extractive is the right word. It's a revenue generating business. Everyone knows the fees that are basically that Pump Fun is earning, charging, however you want to call that. If a business is successful in real life because they make revenue by overcharging you, I don't know, look at luxury brands, nobody would really call that extractive. So I would not call it extractive. You don't need to like it, but I don't think extractive is the right term. How do you think about that?
Yeah, I think your interpretation is the right one, and I would go even further and just say like it's just an ethos difference of like our space versus others, where it's like, yeah, you're right, they're doing what a traditional business would do, and no one's forcing you to use the service, no one's forcing you to partake in the ICO. This is all stuff adults are able to do based on their own personal like evaluations of the situation. So like extractive would be like high fees and like not continuing to innovate on their product. But Pump hasn't done that, right? Like they've generated fees on their product and they've used it to expand their team. They've used it to expand their actual product to where like, okay, they reduced some actual fees and they're doing some redistribution based on their pump swap stuff. So they're continuing to innovate. And now they're saying, hey, we need even more money because we want to scale even faster. And we want to maybe like they're doing this streaming thing. I've seen a couple of people from Blockworks said like, if you think building a team is tough, go look at how much like Kick is paying for Aiden Ross, right? Like if Pump is going into this streaming meta, Aiden Ross is getting paid like $200 million for 3 years of streaming. That's insane. So like if they need $1 billion so they can go hire like a couple of like the Giga Chad streamers in the world to like open up the world to the fact that you can do this stuff and have a token at the same time and make additional money, which is sourced from not them, which I think is actually pretty smart, right? It's like the Kick has to do that because they collect the money from the users and then they funnel it back to Aiden Ross. Whereas what Pump is doing is they're doing the same thing. It's a streaming platform, but instead of Kick or Pump having to pay every single streamer, you know who pays for the streamers? Us, right? Like if Eddie goes in and does his stream on Spaces, which he's doing, or on Pump, which he's doing now, and you go and watch that and you buy his token and you speculate and you have a little fun, you whatever, you trade this thing because it's stupid. Like he's making $700, and that $700 is coming on speculation. It's coming on the back of us, and now it becomes a sustainable platform for these lower tier streamers, and it doesn't come out of Pump's pocket. Like that's a much better model, or more sustainable from the previous things, and maybe that's enough of a moat to attract a bunch of newer up and coming streamers to eventually overtake stuff. So yeah, I think it kind of deviated there a little bit, but I think what they're doing is actually pretty smart.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point. Also, a good wrap for that topic. As I said, we have two more news. Let's actually park the big beautiful bill and Elon's reaction to that for a second and go straight to the very successful Claynosaurz mint. Brett, what happened there? How did it work?
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm a clean oil whale. It worked by the headlines that they generated was at 90,000 mints. And they did that because their system on Sui. So this is a collection that has a bunch of NFTs on Solana. It's IP focused. So it's very similar to like a Pudgy of the world, where they're a professional Web 2 group. Like they've done very high quality. They worked on some of the biggest movies you've ever seen in your life, Minions, a bunch of these other things. Very, very intricate in how they create these characters. And it's an IP play to where they want to continue to expand this universe. So they're expanding the universe with a 25,000 mint collection on Sui, right? Because they saw it and they said there's some things over there that give them an advantage for the things that they're looking to achieve. So they're on Sui, 25,000 NFTs. The unique mechanic they had here was that they, based on your holdings of the other Claynosaurz on Solana, you got a bunch of free packs. And then everything else, you'll notice that there's 90,000 mints and 25,000 actual like Popkins up eligible. They're doing that based on a ticket and raffle system. So what's happening here is people are buying $200 in USDC, for a raffle to this mint. And based on that, at the close of mint, which was yesterday, and it's going to be revealed tomorrow, you either got one of two things. You either got one of the 25,000 things, which is like randomly assigned to the people who bought tickets, or you get a full refund of your $200. Right. So now everyone who did this, and then, you know, if you did get the refund, you actually got like what they call pity points, which means you get additional points for like a raffle to other things that they had stocked up, which is like Claynosaurz from the original mint, which is right now like 13 SOL. So whatever that comes out to, $2,000, something like that. So they had some very high value Claynosaurz up for grabs if you minted but didn't actually get a Popkins. And they did this because now, or like one of the game theories here is like they want to do something new and novel and different. And now they have this unique flow back potential of all of these people have shown that they want a Popkin in some capacity, right? So we have 9,000 or 90,000 times the 200, which comes to like roughly $20 million. 97,000 mints tickets at $200 is roughly $19.4 million, right? Of bid potential dollars that want a Popkin. And only 25,000 of those are going to be minted. So that's like roughly a quarter. That means you have, you know, roughly $15 million of money that is going to flow back to people that have already demonstrated that they want a Popkins. And that would indicate that, you know, or they would like to see that once that is minted out, you probably have a lot of money, roughly $3 for every dollar that was spent. That might buy a Popkin on secondary. Like you're seeing the demand on the market. So hopefully that creates some positive price action and creates a little bit of a viral loop for people. It's the largest mint ever on Sui, so they're really proud of it. I'll try to reach out to Cab and see if we can get him on here to do like maybe a post reveal thing. But yeah, I was just really happy to see. I still think it's one of the most underappreciated brands in NFTs broadly. I've been a whale. I've minted them and I've only accumulated since then.
Nice. Yeah, I think I like the game theory aspect of the mint, especially because it's a smart way to kind of see how high the market demand is, but refund the people and then basically implicitly demonstrate that the demand is supposed to be roughly 4 times higher than the supply, which then in theory should also lead to some of that money, some of those 15 million-ish in refunds flowing back into the collection and maybe moving the floor price up higher on the one hand. But on the other hand, it's obviously also nice that you then have the $20 million figure that is getting shared across socials to demonstrate the interest in the mint, but also obviously being able to refund people on that.
Yeah, I think it was pretty smart on their part. And they like if you spend any time researching or reading up on these guys, you just know that they don't do anything with little effort. Like everything is high quality shit that they do, whether it's the thought process of the mints, whether it's the card pack opening, which I'm excited to see. The animation is sick. Like they just announced a partnership with a TV show in I think it's in Europe. It's like a 15 episode series that they're doing. So it's like the team is exceptionally high quality. They've always been exceptionally high quality, and that's why I've continued to buy into them. I have lots of appreciation for how they go about business, and they've alluded to a token, so like there's that too.
That is always interesting as well. Look, we have a minute left in the show. What I'm going to do is a mini rundown of the last piece of news, and then we'll have to close out for the day. And that is to do with Elon Musk posting, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it." Just to provide a bit more extra context, what that big, beautiful bill actually is, we reported on that on the show. Just touching on some of the biggest points again, that is from the White House side, to deliver the largest tax cut in American history, making Trump's tax cuts from his first term permanent this time, increasing the take-home pay by as much as $13,300 and wages by as much as $11,600, and so many more points. Just this article alone has 50 items that they are focusing on with this bill. Elon's gripe with that is that it adds a lot of spending, increases the deficit to $2.5 trillion, so by roughly an additional $700 billion. And it's interesting to see the timing of that, because Elon has been pushing back on that bill for quite a while, but he's been more, I would say, more gentle in the way how he worded that. But now that his term with Doge has terminated for this year at least, he's definitely picked a more aggressive stance to that. Brad, any last thoughts on that before we close out for the day?
No, man, I think that was a good little summary. We closed it on time, even though we had a truncated day. I think that's pretty good for us.
Awesome. Yeah. Let's do it. And thank you for joining me as a co-host on stage today. Thank you to everyone in the audience for spending the last hour with us. We are obviously, as every day, going to upload the show to Spotify, to Apple Music, and we're going to be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, live on X, live on YouTube. Have a great day, and see you tomorrow.